Cornwall's air ambulance has created a fundraising animation with a very special story to help to raise the £200,000 to cover the festive period.
Now, a couple of things which do stick out. Now, you can see many Cornish landmarks throughout the animated film, but also, we're feeling emotional again, it's about the teddy bear. So what happens is when a child is injured and is helped by the Cornwall Air Ambulance, they are given a teddy.
They give a teddy bear to an injured child, a way of seeking comfort. If they're still conscious, they've got a cuddly comfort there with them.
Any job in the actual festive period obviously seems to hold a bit more poignancy and feels a little bit more tinge of sadness for the crew, because they know obviously that it's an important time for families to be together. We are 365 days a year, 19 hours a day, so whilst everyone is at home opening presents and tucking into their Christmas lunch, there'll be a full crew on critical care for the whole period here for the 2 weeks over Christmas.
The piece for Cornwall Air Ambulance came about through a meeting between myself and Dr. Ed, who's one of the trustees of the Air Ambulance. And this idea came up that a piece of music might help promote the Air Ambulance. I was given what I thought would be a really normal tour of a company. I was kind of taken around here. Here's this place. This is where we do our telephone calls. And oh, by the way, here's the helicopters, which of course was amazing. But more amazing than the helicopters was some very casual conversations I had with the fundraisers at Cornwall Air Ambulance. And every single person in the office that looked like a normal, everyday kind of office was actually an incredible atmosphere of survival and enthusiasm and life. And that was so inspiring. It was really that mood in that fundraising room that just inspired the music. So I wanted to try and create a piece that could capture that. So once I had these chords written out and the basic melody, I then invited anyone who felt an affinity with the Cornwall Air Ambulance, who lived in Cornwall, or had been maybe rescued or knew someone who'd been rescued, who could sing, to contribute. And we had a recording session.
So I joined the charity 3 years ago, and I was introduced to Ben Bartlett, the composer, on my first day. So Ben had written an anthem that required over 200 local musicians to record. Being a musician myself, I called on my contacts and friends, and we got a group of people together. So along with some great soloists, 4 choirs worked for months to rehearse this track to record. So we were set to record the track in March 2020. Unfortunately, as we all know, COVID struck and lockdown happened just 2 days before we were due to make the final recording. So it's been 3 years in the making. Luckily, just before lockdown, we got the recording of the soloist tracks down and Ben was able to mix them together. But sadly, we were unable to record the 200 strong Cornish choirs. So what we did was, luckily I had some footage from a few rehearsals. So Ben was able to mix this in with the choirs, with the soloists, to form the actual recording that you're going to hear.
Yes, it took a few weeks because there are quite a few parts in it. It's not the easiest because there's not always words. Lots of oohing and doing and eyeing and whatever going on in the background. But when they'd learnt their part and we put it all together and it was sung in the practice room, it was absolutely amazing. And then when we got to having the full rehearsals where we had the male voice choir and the ladies choirs all together, it was just absolutely fantastic.
Well, I met the composer Ben Bartlett when I gave him a tour of the performance building facilities at the university, and we got to talking about the project and I became very interested and was honoured when Ben contacted me to ask if I would sing one of the solo lines. Prior to moving to Cornwall, I lived in Wales for 7 years and learnt some of the Welsh language. So it was a wonderful chance to sing in Cornish and be able to hear the similarities between the Welsh and Cornish languages. Which I discovered both come from the same Brythonic branch of Celtic languages that include Cornish, Welsh and Breton.
It was an amazing experience. He told me how many famous people have been in the studio, including Stormzy and Madonna, and that made me even more excited. And then recorded the song and it was lovely. It was great. And it took a long time because he wanted to get it just right and I wanted to get it just right. It's a beautiful song, it's beautifully done, and everyone in it sounds amazing. And I think it will suit the advert so well. I think it's perfect, I really do. It was great.
You know, I've done a lot more since then, but that was one of my first times I did a studio session. So, you know, it was nice working with him because he's kind of guiding me through it and, you know, how to be professional in a studio, because I was an engineer and everything as well. So, you know, all my musical influence really does come from him and my love for music.
I think it started with my singing teacher, Alistair. He said, well, they're doing this recording and they need a really high voice and they want it to be a little child like singing really high on this recording. So I remember going to the studio and it was my first time being in a recording studio, so I was like quite interested at the actual room with all the buttons. I was like, oh, how does this one work and how does this one work, and probably asking way too many questions.
As I mentioned, when I first spoke with Dr. Ed about what a piece of music would do for Cornwall Air Ambulance, this is an exact situation where that really made sense. So an animation has come along and it's quite possible for me to make this piece of music fit that.
Normally we would do animated show, and then the composer would come in and provide music to fit the animation. So this is gone in the opposite direction. So we've started with music. So basically we just created lots of scenes of indeterminate length so that we had enough space to sort of fit them to sort of various sort of beats and sort of movements within the music. We managed to find a model that was had been pre-built for the exact model of helicopter, and then we just textured it with the correct livery and then rigged it a bit so the doors can open and shut and the rotor blades can turn around and the searchlight can come on.
And that animation captured, you know, all of those feelings, how in a split second things change. And how in your darkest hour you need Cornwall Air Ambulance. You know, they only go out to the most critical incidents. They saved Holly, and of course they saved Christmas. So very emotional, very personal to me, and I'm sure it hit a note across the county.
As you know, we need support to keep that helicopter flying. You are such an important part of Cornwall Air Ambulance Trust. Have a very safe and very happy Christmas.